Mexico.
Invite everyone to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Clerk, could you please take the roll call?
Eads,
Here?
Peters,
Here.
Robinson, Hayes,
Present.
Hitt,
Here.
Stahl,
Present.
Smith.
Here.
All right, glad to see everyone here this evening. And have we all had a chance to take a look at the minutes from our last meeting? Any other corrections on that from January 6th? Any discussion?
Are we going with the original minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, it reverted back to the original.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
because that was a consensus that's pretty much, yeah. So, all right, all in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed, same sign. And it's carried. All right, on to communications and announcements. We have a request from the mayor to appoint Mark Vest to the, again, to the Board of Public Utilities. He's been there now for quite a few years, right? Okay. All right, so
Was
once
the
you,
president, yeah. He was on before he was president, too.
yeah, he was. Is there any discussion or questions on that appointment? All right, all in favor of the appointment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, let's see here. And then also want to, the third ward neighborhood revitalization grant to be facilitated by Whitaker Wright. And thank you. If you come and state your name and address.
My name is Whitaker Wright. I'm with the firm CDC of Ohio,
Oh, okay.
1016 South High Street, Columbus, Ohio. I am the Madison County CDBG Administrator, members of council, and I came tonight just to brief you on the status of the grant that the county and the city have been working on in the third ward. We're attempting to apply for in June a neighborhood revitalization grant. The maximum amount of funding is $700,000 or $750,000. The application is due in June. It's a 2-year work period. We have actually been meeting since the fall. We've had 3 meetings, one in November, one in December, and we had one on the 15th, last Saturday. What we've been doing is collecting ideas through mailing surveys. We've had 39 responses, which is actually pretty good in today's world. And we've collected quite a basket of ideas. We won't be able to fund everything that people have asked for, but what we've been doing, particularly in our last meeting, was to kind of winnow through what has been suggested in the surveys. And we sent that off to the engineer for some preliminary costing. And we anticipate that we will have some of those numbers back by our next meeting, March 10th. Residents have asked for sidewalks to improve access to Merrimack Park. Clearly drainage, that's always been an issue in the third ward. Street work, some park and rec, a pocket park, potentially in that housing authority property where there are a couple ball fields now. I have talked with the housing authority and they are amenable to that idea. So that's been very good. We also have a potential sewer relining project in one street. So things seem to be shaping up pretty well. I know a couple members of council have been attending, and I don't know if you all have additional comments.
No, well, I would just say, I would say thank you to Mr. Wright and his work. And I think it's going to be very exciting if we can make this happen. We just need as much participation from folks that live in Ward 3 as we can possibly get, just to help make sure we can get that grant. So.
I would amplify that. The state will evaluate the grant based on the ideas that have been presented. And typically what they look for is a very clear line from the surveys and the discussions we're having with residents now to what's in the application. That's very important. Also, they want to see what they refer to as community participation, and that's always a mix of people attending meetings, filling out the surveys. And also, we've had quite a few discussions about community-based projects. Several people have already talked about working on things like the little libraries, the community cleanup. I know the park and the bicycle path people are very excited how this may help enhance their development of the Matco property and the garden there. So we will continue to generate those ideas, and they are essentially sweat equity, if you will, to match the state's investment. So I feel I'm very pleased with how things have developed so far.
And just want to reiterate that anybody in the city can be involved in this.
Oh, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
Wards 1, 2, and 4 can
Yes.
pitch in and do
Yes,
whatever
we
you'd
would
like to do.
encourage that. When we talk about community participation, any group in the county can come in and help. We've had, a woman who was representing the master gardeners of the county. 4-H, high school students want to participate and take on a project. Any of the service organizations in the community, particularly, sometimes organizations like the Lions Club, they will be looking for a project to do. Every few years out, they want to do a service project, and I have encouraged residents to contact those organizations to see if they have something that they might like to do, or if they're looking for ideas.
And that survey's still it's on the city website.
I believe it is.
If we look under the community news and information, there's a link there, right? And,
Yep.
and you said you're going to accept these surveys until what time?
I will take them right up until, April.
Okay.
I don't want to exclude anyone from giving their opinion or ideas, because inevitably something will come up that's a very good idea.
And does it help the process at all if there's 100 surveys as opposed to 39?
It always helps, but the state typically kind of looks at the whole package. They do understand that getting people to fill out surveys is challenging. We all get them, and a lot of times it's just going in the trash. One of the reasons to have the mayor send it out on a cover letter is to encourage people to say this really is a real city project. But yes, we want them to continue to fill them out.
Thank you.
All right.
I might just mention the next meeting's March 5th at 10 a.m. here in the building.
That is correct, yes. And what we will be doing is looking at the preliminary costing. Also, what I've asked residents to do is think about the history of the neighborhood. I'm going to bring some very large maps and ask people to start marking out where specific places were that they knew about. One gentleman mentioned a forge, some of the old factories, the history. Why is it called Dog Hill? Why is it called Vinegar Hill? It gives some life to an application. The state's been reading these for almost 30 years, and they see a lot of sidewalk projects. So it's important for us to stand out to the reviewers.
That's good. All right. No further questions?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. All right. On to our audience concerns. And before we begin our audience concerns, I do have something to interject here. I would like to bring something to light. Last week, I used the rules of council and the privilege of council president within due bounds when I initially chose not to give time to the topic of the failed sanctuary city legislation. There was no part of those actions that were done out of bounds, and there was no overstep of the council rules. With that said, one of the original reasons that I got into government was to be in a position to make positive changes and to be a voice for the community. Last week, it was clear to me that this council rule removes the ability of the community to freely express concerns to council. I, too, was once in the same situation on the opposite side of the discussion when I was told by former council president Joe Russell that there would be no discussion regarding his arrest for domestic violence when he choked his wife out the back kitchen door onto their deck. And that happened right before the election and during the election process. But this information was not forthcoming before the election. The president used his right to restrict topic and time, and it was within due bounds of council rules, and was seemingly encouraged and not challenged by anyone at that time in the administration at all. The privilege to choose council rules has been the privilege afforded to the president throughout London City history. I would like to change this rule, at least for my time as council president. At the beginning of this, in all terms, I have sworn an oath that includes upholding the Constitution of the United States, which includes freedom of speech. I would like to amend the rule to read that audience concerns will be no less than 2 minutes without regard to topic. So I want to add that, replace what was in there before where the council president can basically take away the time and not allow someone to speak. And we want to put that at 2 minutes, which is customary when we go to the lower number of minutes if we have lots of people to speak, with additional time being allowed at the discretion of council president, and that would be above the 2 minutes. We're all in this city together, and we need to do all that we can to work together and to end the extreme division that has gripped our country. We need to be the change that we are looking for. There will be instances where we agree to disagree. However, all voices should be heard in order to make informed decisions and to ensure that the community remains at the center of local government. We are here to represent you, and I'm here to do my part to help make America great again. So I just wanted to make sure those rules are amended so that way everyone always has time to speak, no matter who you are, no matter what the topic is. And like I said, and unfortunately, that rule has been on council books for a very long time. I went back through council rules when I was deciding which rules I would use, and it was way back. So that's one that has been on the books for a while, so I would like to amend that to be sure everyone always has a voice, no matter what. All right, so on to our audience concerns, and we do have quite a few, so we will be at 2 minutes this evening. We have quite a few for this evening. So when I call your name, just, yes? Do you have to vote on the amendment of the rule? No, because, and that's something too that I explained last week. That's something that's always been done, but in the rules, it says the council president makes the rules and there is no voice vote. It's what the council president decides. As well as choosing the committees and everything. And there's no voice vote on that at all. And because that's the way it's written in the rules. Now, if it wasn't written that way, then it would have to revert to Robert's rules, which would, if it didn't address it. All right, so on to audience concerns. And we will start with Marilyn Kravitz. All right. And you have 2 minutes. Please state your name and address. Thank you.
My name is Marilyn Kravitz. Whoa. I live at 398 Bishop Drive, London, Ohio. Okay, you hit on what I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to say it anyway. I remember when me, my husband, and my grandson first started coming to these meetings. There were very few people attending the meetings at the time. And you said at that time that you wish more people would start attending and voicing their opinions about what was going on. We were trying to get involved and make a difference in our town and learn and watch how the government stuff worked. After one of the meetings, when there was a couple different people spoken, they all said thank you for letting us speak. I can't remember exact words were said, but the gist of it was you guys told us that we didn't need to say thank you for speaking at the council meetings because this was our meeting, our council, and this is where we come to tell our concerns and our ideas. This is the way it's supposed to be, no matter if the topic's hard to hear, if it's repetitive, or it's not in line with the ideas or beliefs that it should be heard. I think that's one of the big problems in our country right now. We, the people, feel like we're not being heard or listened to. The people are being elected to offices sometimes make us feel like they are above us and that they know better than anyone else. Our opinions don't matter. The only time we're important is at election time. I think it all boils down to respect and conversation. Treat other people as you want to be treated. When someone is talking, look at them, listen to what they're saying, and try to understand their viewpoint. Conversation is a wonderful thing. Even if we don't agree, at least we've heard and maybe can find some common ground. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is a name we've never heard before, Michael Norman. Good to see you. Thank you.
Hi there. Michael Norman, 188 South Oak Street, great city of London, Ohio. I'm here tonight to talk about the proposed ordinance 110-22. I'm actually for it, but there's a couple of things I'd like to see maybe changed in it before I'm like 100%. Right now I'm about 80. I'd like to see some kind of amendment where I know Rex explained that we didn't want to put a percentage in there of where we were going to spread the money around. But I think I'd like to see something in there that limits how much we give to the fire department, because I think we've kind of bailed them out twice already. I know that's a terrible word to use, but it seems that way to me. I'd like to see maybe like a 0.25 go to them. That way we don't end up in a situation where there's more money going to the fire than the other two projects that are in there. And then the other thing I'd like to see is with the community center, I'd like to see maybe some more meetings, like for the community, to kind of get in there, and because I seen the plans on the Facebook, and they're nice, but I got some ideas, and I'm sure if I have some, there's probably other people out there that may want to just change a little thing, this and that. So I'd also like to see that too. But other than that, that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, so, great point. The first thing is, Michael, if we had something in there that said the fire department would receive funds not to exceed 0.25%, which is, right, half of a half, would that be good, that it not to exceed 0.25%?
That's what I would like
Okay.
to see. Something that says, we're going to give you this much, but it's not going to end up being, because that's what it is now.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And then the other thing is I'm completely with you about having town halls and figuring out what people want. I actually, they gave us artist rendering, and I went and did it to scale of how I think it should look inside the community center. And it's different from what they had. So if I had ideas, I believe everyone would have ideas, and we could kind of come together and figure out what the best use of this space would be. So there will be plenty of town halls before the election to talk about what people want to see, how they want to see it laid out, and things like that. So, yeah, completely in agreement with you, Mike. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. All right, next is Stephen Miller.
Stephen Miller, 225 Jenkinson Avenue. I appreciate your comments about the freedom of speech. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I figure if you're in a position of power, that's the time that you have to be able to change it and make things make sense.
And I do agree that you had, the rules were on your side on that one, though. But, oh, hey, that moves. Okay, so I basically had just a couple questions about the new building construction. So the, basically, like, has the historical, because we're going to be demolishing the Historical Society's building, is that correct? That's, yes.
For the city of London?
Yes.
They would be brought in. So it's the historic area is Main Street. I'm trying to think of how the district is ran.
Well, what I'm,
Then adjacent.
Did-
I do not think that.
Is there a-
that building is in the historic district.
okay.
I'll double check for you, but I don't believe it.
Well, no, they have is it that the Arts Guild is there, or is there a building? So basically, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, what buildings are gonna be taken out? That's a question, okay. And then,
Oh, yeah, go ahead, answer that.
go ahead.
I can answer it real fast for you. So the current London Visual Arts Guild building would be gone, which is the old art building, or it was something else when Rex was here, probably, ag building. Also, the building where the old Board of Education used to be, where MacG South is now, which is right behind the gym. It has a metal roof and a metal sides. And then the old boiler building, and then some of the bus garage.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then, so has the Arts Guild, have they been approached to,
Yeah.
they're
So we have reached out to all the entities that currently reside in all these buildings, and everybody in here is going to get to hear this twice because it's actually in my speech tonight too. But yes, they've all been approached and they've all been talked to, and from the few Arts Guild members that I've spoken to, they're pretty excited about it.
I apologize, I wouldn't have too many questions.
No, you're fine, man.
Okay, and then on to the fire department, and this kind of, don't think this is too much of a dig, but just, you know, why in the world, after the whole EMS thing, where we're supposed to get an extra $1 million a year, does the fire department, no? Well, you don't have to answer the question because I'm out of time.
Yeah, your 2 minutes is up, but I allow you more time.
Okay, thank you. So, according, you know, with the whole EMS structure, we should have had an extra $1 million a year from saving money. We were paying $2 million, and the mayor said we were supposed to only be paying $1 million. Why don't we have enough money now for the fire department? So that's an honest question. too.
Yeah,
It
no,
wasn't
it's
just
it's not a dig
I'm
at all.
not gonna,
It's
you
an
know,
honest question. So at the beginning, we got a lump sum from Madison County EMD. It was just a one-time lump sum of what they had in their bank. When we took over EMS, we dropped all the mills, if you remember correctly. We were collecting 3 or 3.5 mills of property tax. We said, what we want to do is we're going to drop those completely. And we said we could probably run for about 3 years to figure out exactly how much money we need to run. Because one of the things I talked about was we didn't want to be a bank. We don't want to have a bunch of extra money that we're just collecting off of the citizens. We want to be efficient and see how much it's going to cost the citizens. The 3 years are up, and now we have a better idea of what it's going to run. So actually, a household was paying, oh geez, no, I think, yeah, maybe, I think it was more than that. I had it written down. I'm sorry, I apologize, but we dropped those property tax
So what
mills.
you're saying is our taxes went down 3 years ago.
Yep.
And then now we're just.
And we said we want to figure out what it's going to cost to run it effective and efficiently and not overtax the citizens, and we'll come back and talk to the citizens at that point, and that's what we're doing now.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting him answer.
And what percentage are you looking at appropriating for the fire department out of the 0.25, out of the 0.5? You're looking at appropriating 0.25% specifically to fire? Okay. And then I have another question. Why wouldn't that be a separate levy, the fire by itself? What's that?
You can run 2 levies if you like, but it's very difficult. It's difficult in itself to pass 1 levy, or less pass 2 on the same.
Okay, so if you have the one, so you're looking at making it 1 levy to include the rec center, the police department, and fire. So it would be as if, you know, to say, well, if you want both of these, then you have to vote for this too. Why wouldn't you make it totally separate? Because the fire department has nothing to do with the building of a rec center and a police department. Now, I agree, the police department, it needs a new building.
I heard they were a temporary structure.
It needs a new building, and our Parks and Recs department, it needs more employees. It needs a lot of things because the city has really grown too. But to package all of those together, it seems kind of similar to what we watch in the big time government, where they pack lots of extra things inside to, you know, kind of nudge you to vote for the thing they really want because it's kind of tucked in between there.
And I assume you're going to do it through emergency.
Exactly, and it's on here as an emergency, but, I would think that $25 million, you definitely don't want to rush that through. Someone mentioned town hall meetings, because you definitely want to be able to discuss, the building, you want to discuss. As a matter of fact, there was we appropriated dollars to have a study done, but the study was only for feasibility for the police department. It didn't even include the rec center, so I'm not sure where that part even came up at, so.
You say maybe it should be on the November ballot?
No, it's right here. You got legislation there, never included the recreation. It's for the police department feasibility study only. So, when I heard about this the other day, that was one of my questions, like, wow, where did all this even come from? I don't understand this. And I think several other council people had the questions as well. So, and I think we're going to address those when we go further into our legislation. So, thank you. All right, next we have Anita Likens.
Thank you. This is Anita Likens. I live at 157 East First Street. And this is a continuation of my comments that I had prior to Christmas on civility, which we know relates to the service of civilians within the government process. And I was also talking about my great-great-grandfather who fought in the Civil War and why he fought against injustice and what the purpose was. So what was the injustice? In 1857, the Supreme Court of the United States decided in the Dred Scott versus Sanford decision that those of African descent were not citizens. The decision was for the slaveholders to have the rights to those persons in slavery at the expense of those vulnerable. The Dred Scott decision was bad. We all know that. It was not legislation. It was not enacted by the people, but it was a federalization decision to override state rights. It was an interpretive decision. To resolve it, it took that Civil War. And thousands of lives were lost, close to 750,000. The Supreme Court decision was overturned by legislative vote by the 13th Amendment, which was to overturn slavery in 1865, and the 14th Amendment, which was the citizenship to all born in the United States. Another Supreme Court decision occurred in 1973. That was the Roe versus Wade decision. It was a landmark decision that the U.S. should decide to protect a woman's liberty to choose to have an abortion without excessive government restriction. That was the terminology. This, too, was a bad decision. It came at the expense of specific groups of persons. Said persons were also deemed not to be citizens, nor did they deserve the protection of law. The decision gave the pregnant woman the choice to end the life of her unborn child based on age. At the same age, however, the courts deemed that in case of murder, car accident, or lawsuits for pharmaceutical use, that the unborn child damages could be awarded to the loss of the life for that yet-to-be-born child. The sole basis, whether it was wanted or not by the mother. The father had no rights. Unprotected by law, the child's quality and quantity of life is held in virtual slavery, life limb to the whim of the keeper of the uterus. So I stand here civilly, legally, and scientifically. Is it logical to have rights based on viability? Anyone can choose a number for a malady, an artificial benchmark. The truth is, life begins at conception, period. Conception is the total of DNA, that's what's there. Genetic makeup, I would respectfully ask, thank you, that the genetic makeup is now in place. Nothing more is ever added genetically to a child once it is conceived by the union of the ovum and the sperm. Only time and nutrients growth continues. I do have probably about 3 more paragraphs at the, thank you, sir.
No, I gave her more time. Yeah,
But thank you, and thank you all.
thank you.
Bottom line, even if the Supreme Court determines some redefined viability to the indicator to warrant protection of life, we are all at risk. Elder aged, I'm getting there. Disability, IQ, could be questionable. but it could be redefined as a viability indicator in the rule of law. Bottom line, we are all at risk without the protection and the care of the society that is around us. Finally, in addition to the civility, legally, and scientifically, I stand morally. Yes, I am one of those conservative Christians that believe in absolute truth. Absolutely. I know that God's eye is always on the little ones. Jesus told us that it's better to have a millstone around the neck than to harm one of these little ones. I know, I'm not silly. I know there are bad and evil things in this world. I know abortion is bad, but it's been around since history began. I agree with that too. As long as humankind is on earth, there will be abortion. Same for murder, same for stealing, and same for lying. But as a society, we legislate and put in controls against evilness to govern ourselves. The framers of the Constitution recognized that. John Adams wrote, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and a religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." So here I stand. I thank God I live in a country where the culture, the society, has enacted legislation for the common good of the citizenship based on our Constitution. One where we can stand against those that abuse the weakest and the most vulnerable of us all. Here we have police, rule of law, to protect us. Where there is a majority who still believe that this country is populated by a moral and religious people, we are not ruled by tyranny, by the mob, but by the rule of law. So we are the people in charge of our government, as pointed out in the Constitution. We elect, we legislate, we self-govern, and we are founded on Judeo-Christian principles. I believe we should all stand in wisdom and integrity and in civility, but it's not whether we won or we lost. It's not whether it was passed or it wasn't passed. The vote may be in, but God already has the victory. He only asks that we stand and we speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have George Schwartz. Okay. Next, Andrea Dillian.
My name is Andrea Dillian, 66 East 5th Street. I would like to speak to the recent announcement of the proposed tax levy being put on the ballot in May for a new community rec center and police department at a cost to the taxpayers of 0.5% income tax levy. Although I feel this would be a great addition for the residents of London and the London families, I feel the infrastructure issues specifically the storm sewer systems in town, need our immediate attention. I've lived in Madison County the majority of my life, mostly in London, and I grew up in London. I can recall staying at my grandparents' house on East High Street as a teenager, and the severe rains would come and I would get to swim on High Street. I can also remember T.J. Leach's grandma lived behind my grandparents on Lotch Beach, and her backyard was a pond we played in. I recall as a teenager going to my friend Lisa Mead's house on Chandler Avenue and having to stay inside even though they had a volleyball court set up back at backyard because the backyard was flooded. And finally, I recall a friend who lived on School Street, and we would literally have a river that we could wade into. My point in telling you these long ago memories of mine is that hearing the reasons, well, we have never had the excessive rains in London that we are having now, is not factual. We may be seeing an increase in frequency of downpours, but they have been wreaking havoc in London for 45 plus years, and I know I'm telling my age. Monday I met with Rex Castle, and he provided me with a lot of insight and figures that both shocked and astounded me. I was told that the cost to replace our current storm sewer systems in London are in the neighborhood of $25 to $30 million. I had a lot of questions. For example, when did we start collecting money from residents for storm sewer maintenance? The answer is 2017 at $3 per month per home. At some point, that increased to $5 per house per month. And as of today, there's 407,000, may I please speak longer? $714.05 in the storm sewer account. At this rate, we're never going to do anything but put Band-Aids on. I understand we received $1,081,000 from the federal government in 2021, and asked Rec if those monies could be used for storm sewer repairs, and he informed me that it has already gone to the fire department. Which brings me to new questions. Back in 2018, a bid was rejected by the citizens of London to cut ties with the Madison County Emergency District EMD and bring the EMS under the City of London jurisdiction. However, the city fought the rejection, and in 2019, the city took over the EMS. We were told this would save money. Why then does the fire department need more funds? Why will they be insolvent in 2022? According to the London budget, in 2021, the fire department has $500,000 in excess. So where did all the savings from bringing EMS under City of London oversight go? Also, according to the London budget, beginning this year, our expenses will exceed our income by $120,000 a month. How can we ask the residents of London to fund a new rec center and police department with such a looming budget crisis and the infrastructure needing immediate attention? I come before you with a unique perspective on many fronts. As a realtor for 14 years, I'm privileged to meet with a great deal of London citizens, and I have listened to them lament time and time again about the flooding in their basements, yards, garages, roads. From Nancy Robinson on Garfield to my Aunt Sharon Dillian on Hume Drive, who gets a larger pond in her side yard than the in-ground pool she owns. From Norma Hawkins on Chandler Avenue, who gets so much rain and dirt running into her yard and driveway that she cannot pull out of her garage, and actually has a good deal of straw in her yard from the fairgrounds after a hard rain. To Cordy Comer on Jacqueline Drive, who has had to replace tile in her kitchen because the water sits on Jacqueline Drive for days on end before receding. To my house on 5th Street, where my husband and I have spent over $12,000 running new drainage from our basement to the street, waterproofing, and doubling up on sump pumps in our basement. I have accumulated a list of 61 residents who are against any new projects or taxes until the storm sewer issues are addressed, and that was with almost no effort on my part. I just posted my feelings on several London groups and asked people to PM me if they felt in some way, the same way. And now once I get my fat ass out there and actually start going door to door, I can promise you the names will triple. I am not coming before you to blame anyone for these infrastructure issues. I come to you to just get answers to questions and ask that council consider the urgency of my request and how many people in London this affects. I fully support the London Police Department and Fire Department. I am friends with many of them, and of course they deserve our support. But given the current state of the economy, mounting inflation, and the dire need for infrastructure repairs, I am asking you to table the idea of a new rec center / PD department, and let's get allot monies for a city engineer, and start a plan to get storm sewers replaced. I thank Greg Eads for asking for monies towards a camera to scope out the sewer systems at the start, and then I'd like to see a plan drawn up for a modern storm sewer system. And I promise today I will help explain to residents why a tax increase is necessary to correct this problem. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
$25 to $30 million is for one project on the south side. That's not the entire sewer system.
We gotta start somewhere.
Well, I understand that, but you said it was for the whole system, whole city. It's not. It's just the south side. And that's where we currently feel like there's a big bottleneck and it needs to be addressed. So just wanted to correct that.
Do you have any idea how much money it would take to alleviate? Just an idea.
But if we keep just kicking the can down, it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. You're wanting to bring residents here, I know that's the purpose, but I'm telling you from somebody that sells houses all the time, people don't come here because they hear all the problems with the infrastructure. That's fine.
All right, thank you everyone for their comments this evening. Let's see here. On to our committee reports. We'll start with Mr. Eads.
Well, I did attend my first finance committee, which was eye-opening to say the least. There's a lot of information at a finance committee, and I know I'm way behind in the learning curve, and it's going to take a while to learn just even to get a good grasp of how these things work. However, since Mr. Peters is the chairman of that committee, I'll defer to him on any further information.
Okay, Mr. Peters.
There at the finance meeting, basically, there's a lot of stuff tonight, a lot of resolutions we'll go over and we'll talk about then.
Okay. All right. Mr. Robinson?
I have nothing.
Okay, Mr. Hayes.
Attended the January 11th Public Safety Committee meeting. We did approval of November minutes. Police Department report was accepted. Fire Department report was accepted. Safety Service Director comments were made. Under old business, we had nothing. Under new business, we talked about farmland within the city, farms per se. What constitutes a farm from a legal standpoint? Farms being grandfathered in on original laws that we have on the books with new owners. This will be revisited again in the near future. We also talked about the Police Department Recreation Facility Feasibility Study, which will be brought up later on this evening. Next public safety meeting will be on February the 8th at 5 p.m., probably in this room right next door.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hitt?
Yeah, I attended the public safety meeting, and I'll go through the police chief's report that he presented for that meeting. Seth Dull was hired as an officer and started January 9th. There's still another position open. All of the civil service list of officers has been exhausted, but they're taking lateral transfers from other police departments. Vanessa Emler resigned from her position as an officer and accepted a position in the Columbus Police Department. They held their annual Shop with a Cop in December, and they were able to serve 40 children. That's the most that they've ever served, thanks to generous donations and the fundraiser held last October. I believe that was the concert at the fairgrounds. I'm not sure how much it raised. Was it $9,000 or?
9,000 plus.
So they're still waiting for parts and to upfit the new cruiser. Keith Akers was hired as a part-time dispatcher. They had several tasers that developed issues with the display and are looking into repair and replacement of those. They met with the London School to develop a plan for a Safety Town event. Sergeant Cooper has begun his certified law enforcement executive training class and will complete that over the next 12 months. They received a final plan for the facility needs assessment, which is kind of what we were talking about tonight as far as new police department. And then the police calls are up 15%. Is that in the last month, or was that over the last year? Yeah. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Stahl?
I also attended the public safety, and Chief Eads gave us a report. The City of London Division of Fire and EMS. Activities and events, Department EMS training, pre-hospital trauma life support, departmental fire training, aerial operations, new hire orientation continued, picked up, organized, distributed, and completed a toy drive, participated in the old-fashioned Christmas parade, completed pump testing, several station tours, instructed CPR for high school and senior and junior class, assisted with COVID shot clinic at the health department. And he also told they had 2,614 runs in 21, and that averages 7.2 a day. And that one day, you didn't see which one was, 19 runs in one day. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Smith?
I don't have much. The next BPU meeting will be January 27th at 6:30.
Okay, thank you. On to our city official reports.
All right. Good evening, and thanks everyone for coming out tonight. There has been a lot of questions about the proposed community center and new police department. I'd like to begin by starting off to say that if you'd like to contact us directly, like some of you did, please call 740-852-3243, or you can email me directly at pclosser at londonohio.gov. These methods are a much better way to communicate than through a social media comment section. I have read through the comments on social media, and I wanted to respond to some of the questions that have been posted. First is, what amenities have people asked for? I've served as mayor for 6 years and on city council before, and when I talk to people about what they'd like to see in London, the two things I hear the most are restaurants and a community center to give kids and adults more things to do. This is one of the reasons the city has created these plans and ideas. Ultimately, the decision to move forward with the project will be presented to the voters. What about a tax credit? People have mentioned a tax credit if they work outside the city. Currently, the plan is to not give a tax credit. If you live in London, spend most of your time here, use our parks and other amenities, and receive your utilities and use our infrastructure, residents should pay the full amount of London's income tax. If you work outside of London, police and fire are still protecting your house and belongings while you are not home. Why no indoor pool on the drawings? That was a big one. I agree it would be really nice to have a pool in the new community center facility. However, the cost to build, maintain, and staff it would be very high. Facilities and aquatic centers in nearby communities have been mentioned, but they charge their citizens a monthly fee on top of the tax, and we did not want to do this. We want our community center to be free so that people and every one of our citizens can enjoy it. What programs will be offered? We put a list out of possible programs that could come. The city will continue to run youth basketball, volleyball, and pickleball. We plan to offer more organized leagues and different activities. The multi-purpose rooms and gyms will be available to rent for private gatherings and such as birthday parties. We are approached quite often about using the current buildings to offer activities like dance, sporting events, AAU basketball, travel, volleyball, martial arts, and many other classes. The community center will enable these classes and activities to take place. The list of programs that we created was just a starting point. We plan to work very hard to offer activities that our citizens need and want. Will it be free? We're looking forward to offering open gym times where the community can use it for free, where adults can come in and play pickup basketball games or other activities like indoor soccer, and kids could do the same. The walking track will be open to the community so those walking for exercise can do it no matter the weather. Now on to the infrastructure issues. As we all know, everyone on council, when we took over as mayor and council, we inherited a very aging infrastructure that had been neglected for many years, as was spoke about earlier, and it still is one of our top priorities and continues to be. In my first term, we spent approximately $2.5 million on road and storm sewer repairs, an additional $1.5 million on the reconstruction of Park Avenue. Our infrastructure will always need to be improved as time goes on and repaired, and we will continue to do this no matter if there's a new community center or not. Why not just use the current building? Some stated that there is no need for a new community center and that we should continue to use what we have. The current gym is very old and the maintenance of the building costs more and more every year. The number of kids participating in our programs grows every year and our space is becoming limited. The gym was occupied 6 days a week during youth basketball program that just ended. As our community and programs grow, more space will be needed. The current kindergarten and first grade classes at London Elementary School are the largest that they've ever seen. If we don't plan for the future, we will have to limit the number of children we serve in the future. What's going to happen to the school, arts building, and bus garage? We currently have 3 tenants on this premises. We have talked to all and will continue to help them plan for the future. We are excited to offer the London Visual Arts Guild a home in our new community center and they hope they will be an important addition to the programs that are offered. I strongly feel that the arts are an important role in our community and should be available just as sports are. Somebody asked about the traffic lights. It was stated that we should replace the traffic lights before beginning another big project. Well, we are replacing all the current traffic lights with LED lights, traffic flow sensors that will be installed, and upgrading the crosswalks. This project was approved in 2021, and We hope to have it completed in 2022. What is the tax paying for? A portion of the tax of the 0.5% income tax increase will fund the City of London Division of Fire and EMS. And when we succeeded from the Joint Emergency Medical District in 2018, the property tax millage that London citizens were paying was dropped and was no longer collected from the taxpayer. We did not want to overcollect taxes for fire and EMS and knew we could operate for 3 years without additional funding. We knew that after the 3 years, we would better understand the operational needs and would then come to the voters to request the appropriate tax needed. The other portion will go to the demolition of the current buildings and construction of the new police department and community center. How much is it going to cost me? The proposed 0.5% income tax increase will cost the average London citizen $152.06 a year. That's $12.68 a month. We are a growing community, and we strive to offer the amenities that everyone needs and wants. This is why we built the new playgrounds and upgraded Cowling Park, while we have improved the municipal pool and built a splash pad, while we are focusing on our improvements at Merrimack Park, and finally, the plans that are presented to you today. We want to meet the needs of all the citizens, from the children trying sports for the first time to adults that want a safe place just to walk. For 42 cents a day, I think this is a great deal. Personally, I want my son to be able to have a place to play sports, paint a picture, take a class, and have a safe space to hang out with their friends. With that being said, I'm moving on to the double MOLO fun fact, which is the number 8,800 and the number 35. 8,800 is a total amount of pounds of goods that the citizens of London donated to the Mayors for Mayfield event. 35 is the number of pairs of shoes that London City Schools Raider Rack was able to purchase with a donation from Shoe Sensation that was made possible by the Mayor's Day sale. I want to thank everyone that donated and participated in both events. This is a great community that comes together when things need to get done, and I cannot thank you all enough for all your generous donations and time. Thank you all for your time. Who day? And is there anything you guys would like to ask? Do you have any questions?
I looked through the Facebook stuff too, and one thing that seemed like came up a lot was if the building would be staffed to allow citizens to come in whenever they, like during the
Yes.
hours, whenever they wanted to come in and use the facility.
Our initial thoughts are it would be staffed for a minimum of 12 hours to have a receptionist. Our thought is that all citizens would come in and get a membership card, and then when they would come in, they would kind of check in so we know who's there, what's going on, and that there would be a receptionist. On top of that, the recreation offices will be over there. So that's where, instead of them being in this building, they will also be in that building.
Do you foresee like needing to increase the recreational staff in order to, or a strengths ordinance to increase the recreational staff to, I guess, prevent any kind of destruction of the property, or to monitor the building, or that kind of
Mr.
thing?
Comer stated, we are going to have to increase the staff anyway. We are just running on bare bones right now. We have, as you know, a rec director and a rec assistant. It's the only two people. And then we hire, I don't want to say contractors, but we hire some part-time people to come in and help with basketball, volleyball, and things like that just during the games. So either way, with or without a community center, we are really going to have to look at least bringing on a couple people.
Yeah, and again, I do agree that the rec department definitely needs more employees. They've asked for years, they've asked for a long time for more employees. And as you said, you do use volunteers, but volunteers are volunteers. They're not tied down to anything. They can show up or not show up. And that you can't continue to function with just volunteers as running the facilities, and that would be with or without building a new facility. With or without doing that, it's definitely going to need to be something that happens because we've got a lot of kids involved in these programs, and it's great. I don't know if you've had a chance to, you can view it online too. I think they stream it live, but there are so many kids who participate in the basketball programs and volleyball and everything. There's like no space.
No, I think we were at around 300 kids for youth basketball.
Yeah, I remember my son.
Games would last for 10 to 12 hours
Yeah.
on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And then volunteers, you're absolutely right. I mean, Chief Nickel and myself ran the scoreboard for a few games. I know Brian got called in to help out.
Yeah,
Tammy
I took
just-
money at the doors.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
don't work there.
Yeah, so yeah, you're absolutely right about volunteers.
Yep. And so
I had something else too.
Yes.
Also seemed like what came up a lot was, is that open to just city people, or is it open to outside the city limits? Or
That's something
how
that
do
we
you address
worked on,
that,
but
or-
we would, just as our programs are open right now, to, take, for example, South Charleston and South Vienna do not have sports leagues. So they come here to play their sports leagues. So it would be open to people outside, just like you could go to Prairie Township if you wanted, but you would have to then purchase a membership to use our facility if you are not a citizen of London proper, of the city limits of London that pay the tax for this.
All right. Anything further? Of course, we see there's lots of discussion that needs to be had on this topic, so let's move on.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do not have any old business. Now on to new business. Resolution 10222, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second. All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 10222, sponsored by Josh Peters, a resolution authorizing the auditor to transfer funds during 2022.
So this is the yearly thing we do. So those funds are available so the auditor can pay as needed throughout the year. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 items that she'll pay throughout the year.
Okay, do we have any questions on those? And we have the legislation here, and you can also see it there. All right, and what are our wishes there?
We'll just keep it on.
Okay, and it has an emergency clause. We want to.
Well, that emergency will just be when we pass.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll leave that. Next, on to Resolution 10322. Motion to read by title or number.
So moved. Second.
In a second. All right. Clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 10322, sponsored by Josh Peters, a resolution increasing appropriations.
This is for the funding of the annual 4th of July fireworks. We'd like to appropriate an increase to the Mayor Miscellaneous Fund for $15,000 for fireworks this year. This is the same amount as we did last year. Like I said, the fireworks we'll plan on to be on July 3rd this year.
Is it the same as last year?
Right.
No, I'm
But
talking
you-
about the amount.
The amount.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you do, don't we get a discount if we do it on the 3rd?
Yeah.
So the way that firework companies work is if you do it on the 2nd, 3rd, the 5th, or the 6th, you get more, no pun intended, bang for your buck, because everyone wants to have it on the 4th. So every community wants to have it on the 4th, but we've always done it on the 3rd so we could have a better show for the amount of money.
If anyone doesn't have any questions, I'd just make a motion that we suspend the 3 reading rule.
Second.
All right, clerk, please take the roll call for suspension.
Eads,
No.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, clerk, please take the roll call for adoption.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Eads.
Yep.
Okay, resolution 322 has been approved. On to resolution 10422, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 10422, sponsored by Greg Eads, a resolution increasing appropriations.
So this is actually the fact that the police department received donations last year. They were not appropriated last year. This is just putting this back in their fund so they can use that. And it's my understanding that this is kind of at-will money for them to use since it's a donation. It's not designated for anything. It'll be up to the chief to use that.
All right, do we have any questions?
So this is their money?
It was donated on behalf or to the police department originally, so this will be their money.
Right, okay. Then if anyone doesn't have any questions, I would make a motion that we suspend the three reading rule.
Is that
104.
necessary?
Second.
It's a donation. I don't know what we need to discuss about a donation.
I second.
All right, first and second. Clerk, please take the roll call for suspension.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Eads,
No?
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, clerk, please take the roll call for adoption.
Hitt,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Eads,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Okay. On to resolution 10522, motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 10522, sponsored by Greg Eads, a resolution increasing appropriations.
So again, this is donations that were made to the fire department over the last year. A total of $9,000 that was sitting there. It was not appropriated last year. This is just allowing this money to be appropriated to the fire department so they can spend it this year.
Right, it's the exact same thing, right? Donations.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then if nobody has any questions, I would make a motion that we suspend the three reading rule for 10522.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Clerk, could you please take the roll call for suspension?
Stahl,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Eads,
No?
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt.
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
First and second. Then clerk, please take the roll call for adoption.
Smith,
Yes.
Eads,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt,
Yes.
Stahl.
Yes.
Okay. On to resolution 10622, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 10622, sponsored by Josh Peters, a resolution increasing appropriations.
These appropriations, it's from the ARP, American Rescue Plan. We'd like to appropriate increase $458,759.97 of that grant money. So it can be, that's going to the fire department, correct?
Then why isn't that?
And then section 2, and then in August. Okay, yeah, so 400,000 will go to the fire department. And what was the 58? Yeah, so all these appropriations are so we can spend the money.
Let's,
This is a grant we were awarded, correct? This was a grant we were rewarded?
No, this was the ARP money, it was just the money that
Sorry.
we were supposed to be 2.2 from federal
Gotcha.
government, and then they only gave us 1 or whatever because of the townships. And when we applied for that, the grant dollars, were the grant dollars supposed to be applied for specific reasons, or we get them use them for any reason at all?
one reason that you can use it, and then that you can use it for anything in the city except for retirement plans, is if you have revenue shortfall. We had revenue shortfall in 2021 of 900 and some $1,000 or 2020. And then 2021, we had another revenue shortfall of 400 and some thousand. So like $1.3 million in revenue shortfall during the 2 years that we got the ARP money. So by classification, we can use that in any means necessary in the city to help cover departments that had revenue shortfalls, of which the fire department's one of them. They're having shortfall on funds.
Great.
So Mr. President, I have questions with Josh, and then also Kenna was there, and many people were there. Originally, when we discussed this, $458,759, I guess I question why we don't show $400,000 in this ordinance, or are we going to have another ordinance to give that to the fire department, or is that not necessary? This is just me learning, because it's not specified in here, but it was specified at the meeting that $400,000 was going to go. That's point one. Point two, we discussed whether or not we should go ahead and create legislation to accept or to use $400,000 in August that we don't actually have yet. And I thought that was going to be a second ordinance that we would do in August when we actually had the money. And can anybody address this and why this is laid out this way? Because I don't understand it.
Yes.
The first figure, the 458,000, that's what we have in that fund that was not spent last year.
Right.
Appropriated last year, didn't get spent, so it defaults into that same fund.
Okay, I understand that.
We have to appropriate the entire amount, and then only 400,000 of that is going to be for the fire department. And Josh, at the finance meeting, was the one who, we just decided we would do it all at once. Go ahead and put in the legislation when we get the money in July or August to appropriate it later so that we didn't have to go back to council.
Right, so then section 2, that's right, the reason why we have section 2.
Correct. I think we
Because
decided
before it
to
was
do
going to be
all at once and just
800,000.
get that other.
So that's why there's 2 sections.
Okay.
And
But
it's in August.
should we not have something, should there be another line that appropriates the money to the fire department then?
No.
It's not necessary?
We talked about, federal grants, wanting to spend the money out of the specific fund that we have to create is for auditing purposes. So they can track it and monitor it.
Okay.
So it has to be spent out of that fund.
So this is just me learning. I would guess 5 years from now, when someone goes back and looks at minutes, they're not going to understand where the $458,000 went or where the $400,000 went because it's not designated anywhere unless they can see it in your accounting.
Well, that's why that fund will show the detailed expense of exactly what it was for.
Okay.
Fire salaries or fire operations.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any further questions on 10621?
I don't know if it's nitpicking or not, but it says 10621. It should be 10622. Does that
It's
matter?
corrected on the official copy.
Oh,
Sorry.
Oh, is it
Yeah.
on the official? Okay.
It is.
Here?
That's good.
Yeah, it's 21 there and 22 here. Any further questions? All right.
If there's no more questions, I'll
What are our
suspend it.
wishes?
I'll make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule.
I'll second.
In a second. And clerk, please take the roll call for suspension.
Smith,
Yes.
Eads,
No.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt,
Yes.
Small,
Yes.
Saul.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, there's a first and a second to adopt. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Eads,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
On to 10722, motion to read by title or number.
So moved?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 10722, sponsored by Greg Eads, a resolution increasing appropriations.
So this is not specified in here. The Historic Downtown Revitalization Committee has the opportunity to join Heritage Ohio. It's a $500 membership fee. In doing so, the city had already given money for the assessment that happened downtown. So in doing so, then the HDRC, or Historic Downtown Revitalization Committee, will then be able to join and be able to use that information and get more information and help from Heritage Ohio for the downtown. So that's what this is. It's just $500.
Okay. And do we have any other questions on 10722? All right. If not, what are our wishes there?
Make a motion to bypass the three reading rule.
Okay, adopt that.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Eads,
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to adopt and a second. Clerk, please take the roll call for adoption.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Eads,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
10722 is adopted. Okay. And just as a point of order, once the resolution, the voting has ended, then that's kind of where I chime in and ask if there's another motion. So then I'll address the motion, and then we go on with our voting from there. Thank you. On to Resolution 10822, motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, second. Clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 10822, sponsored by Josh Peters.
Okay, this is for the city's portion for the paving project for Route 56 and 38 through town. This 300,000. I believe this will project start in March. Is that correct, Bill? Goes out to bid in March, but this will be the city's portion to.
Okay. And what's the total amount of the project? Okay. All right. Are there any further questions here on 10822?
There's no more questions. I'll make a motion to suspend the three reading rule.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, clerk, please take the roll call for suspension.
Hitt,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Eads,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
All right, and a motion to adopt.
Make the motion to adopt it.
Second.
All right. Clerk, please take the roll call for adoption.
Stahl,
Yes. I'm sorry, yes.
Yes.
Eads,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt.
Yes.
10822 has been adopted. On to 10922, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
All right, and a second.
Second.
Second. All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 10922, sponsored by Josh Peters, a resolution increasing appropriations.
Okay, this is this 330,000 plus. This was appropriated money in 2021. And we just, since it wasn't spent, we got reappropriate for 2022. This is for the street lights.
Any questions?
Street lights. This is not traffic lights.
Traffic lights.
Traffic
lights.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
But it
Traffic
does say
lights.
street lights in the ordinance.
Should we amend that?
Yeah, do we need to amend that to?
Just to be safe.
I make a motion to amend the,
Just to be safe.
I'll second.
change that from street lights to traffic lights.
Okay.
Traffic signal lights.
Traffic signal lights. Is
I
it-
would leave the wording because there could have a private wording for a reason, but I would maybe put that wording slash traffic.
Just. So what are we amending this to now?
Streetlights slash traffic
Traffic
signals.
Signals. Okay,
And I'll second it.
in a second. Okay, so first and second to amend. Clerk, please take the roll call to amend.
Smith,
Yes.
Eads,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt,
Yes.
Stahl.
Yes.
Okay, has been amended, and now a motion to.
I have
Just-
a question
go
real
ahead.
quick.
Uh-huh.
Was there, the 330,000, that's a portion of the amount that it will require to replace the,
Right, because you already had the full 900 appropriated to you, correct? Right.
And that full 900, that was the lights, and they're correct, the street lights?
If nobody has any questions, I'll make a motion that we suspend the three reading rule.
Second.
And a second. Clerk, please take the roll call for suspension.
Eads,
Nope.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt,
yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Okay, and a motion to adopt.
Make the motion to adopt it.
Second.
All right, first and second. Clerk, please take the roll call for adoption.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Eads.
Yes.
All right, 10922 has been adopted. 1-2, ordinance 11022, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, first and second. Clerk, please read the ordinance.
Ordinance 11022, sponsored by Rich Hayes, an ordinance to increase the municipal income tax by 1/2% per annum for a continuing period of time for the purposes of providing funds to pay costs of acquiring, constructing, furnishing, equipping, improving, maintaining, and repairing municipal recreational facilities, municipal fire department facilities, and municipal police department facilities owned by the City of London, to pay general operating expenses related to municipal recreational facilities of the fire department and of the police department, and to pay any expenses and debt service charges for debt incurred in connection therewith, authorizing the question of such increase to be placed on the ballot at the election to be held on May 3rd, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, I have a statement. It's rather long, so bear with me. Ordinance 11022 is about the feasibility study that was recently completed for the construction of a new police department and community center. Both departments are in dire need of new buildings. Police department is operating in a building that was built in 1920, and the gymnasium that is currently being used for our youth sports programs was built in 1963. I'm proud to sponsor this legislation and bring this information to the voters. This is something that the city really needs, and I'm excited to be on city council to have the ability to help the city grow and improve. I know it has been talked about on several social media pages, and I wanted to touch on some topics that have been mentioned. On February the 18th, 2021, City Council approved $12,000 to create a feasibility study for the construction of a new police department. Through the discussions with the architectural firm, we learned that adding a new community center to the study would only be an additional $500. Even though it wasn't on the original legislation, I think we can all agree that a new recreation facility is very much needed, and adding to it the study was a good decision. And thank you to Chief Nickel and Mr. Castle for putting in the extra work on this. The administration, Chief Nickel, and Parks and Recreation Director Tammy Braskett met several times throughout 2021 to discuss the operations of each department and the design features that needed to be included in each building. The buildings needed to not only meet all appropriate codes and current needs, but they also have to plan for future growth. In October, the study was complete, but it was hard to envision the buildings and a proposal without actual drawings. The city requested they be added to the packet of information, and the drawings were received on December 16, 2021. Proposal was introduced at the first opportunity to do so on January 10th at the Finance Committee meeting, and subsequently on January 11th at the Safety Committee meeting. If approved, the city will be requesting a 0.5% income tax increase. These extra funds will go toward the demolition of current buildings, construction of a new police department and community center, and toward the operations of the fire/EMS department. When London took over EMS services from Madison County Emergency Medical District, Chief Eads stated that the department's current budget could operate for 3 years. For this reason, the $3.5 million that was being collected from the citizens was dropped. No additional funds have been collected from the citizens for 3 years. 2022 begins year number 4. Chief Eads has used those years to understand the actual funding needed for EMS services. We now confidently come to the citizens with the appropriate tax needed. It has been asked on social media why the city would begin a project as big as this when there are still issues with our infrastructure. The city has invested approximately $1.5 million in storm sewer repairs since 2016. Repairs to the city infrastructure will be ongoing forever. We cannot stop growing and improving all other city services because of the continued infrastructure improvements. Council makes city laws and decide how tax dollars are spent. It is our job to move the city forward and to do what is best for all our citizens. The city leaders have introduced this proposal to us, and we are bringing it to the public for much needed discussion and input. Council cannot pass legislation to increase income taxes. I'm going to read that again. Council cannot pass legislation to increase income taxes. This must be decided by you, the citizens. Passing this legislation today is only allowing the proposal to be publicly discussed. It doesn't even mean City Council is endorsing the project. It simply means that the 0.5% income tax increase will be on the ballot on May 2nd. And until May 2nd, the city will hold several public forums to explain the necessity of both facilities and to respond to all questions and concerns everyone may have. And I believe that in 3 months leading up to May 2nd, we can easily have all the information gathered and given to you, the voters, to make the best decision for our community. Your Honor, Mr. Castle, do you have anything you'd like to add before we just?
I think my.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah, you could go ahead at this time, but this is where I'm having a little bit of issue with how this runs. Just to let you know, in city council, the mayor does not run the council meetings. He's allowed to be here. There's many cities that actually don't allow their mayors to be in the council meetings at all. So, it would be up to the council president to introduce people and bring them forward. So, thank you, but I think I'd take over from here. So we'll start with Chief Nichols.
All right, thanks. That would be a horrible city to work for, in my opinion, where the administration was
There's
allowed
lots,
council.
there's lots of them that will not allow mayors into their city council meetings. In Columbus, I don't think they allow theirs in either.
Okay. All I wanted to address, Mr. Hayes addressed quite a bit that I was going to talk about. I just wanted, you had a question earlier, how this come about, and I didn't want people to think that we're springing it on at the last minute on purpose or anything. When I came here, it was obvious that the facilities were in dire need for the police department. Working then with Safety Director Mosier, he was outlining plans that the city administration had, and as you know, one of the first things, the street department obtained the facility out in the old ODOT garage, and that granted more room for the fire department building. And even before that, this building here was revamped, so you have a really professional council chambers and room for, we're going to utilize quite a bit for training also. So you had these projects that were being done, then you had the fire and acquisition of the EMD department, which gave them another building to look at and revamp, and some expense there, and with the new medic program, which from a public safety standpoint, in my opinion, and several officers I talked to, is a no-brainer. You now have 3 additional medics serving the city with backups around. Everybody benefits by having more medics available. So just a sidebar there that was necessary, and I appreciate the fact that it went through. Just as one that may need medic help in the city, we experience times, not taking anything away from the Madison County EMD, they do their job, but you're looking at now having that additional manpower and medics here, where the response time from our officers were on scene waiting for medics on many occasions. So that's where we base our opinion on. Not that they were worse medics or better medics, we're not doing that. We're talking about the ability to have them there. So you get through that, and now you come to the point where, okay, we're looking at the police department, maybe it's their time to look at it. So we addressed council last year for the needs assessment. One thing I wanted to make clear, I wasn't sure how much an architect was going to charge for needs. I had a ballpark idea. So when I asked for $12,000, we could have gave some of that money back if we didn't need it all. But when we got to looking at the feasibility study, also looks at land acquisition and feasibility issues with the infrastructure, with the city owning the property here, and the unusable condition of the buildings that are there, and the deterioration of the current community center with the old gym. It was obvious that the community center needed to be included. So when we talked to them, it was only $500 over the appropriated funds, so that $500 came from a regular budget. So when we looked at all that, that's where it brings it up. And I know you have the plan and you're looking at design things, and we're not to a design phase. That comes after you know that you're going to have money to spend for a building project. So to say that that's the design of the buildings is inaccurate. Those what we call the bubble plans, come up with an idea of what is necessary for a police department, a modern functional facility, and what the community center may want or involve. I like to, for myself, I like to not refer to it as a recreation center, because when I think recreation center, I'm thinking indoor pool and all kinds of weight rooms and things. This is a community center where you have a gathering point for people for different activities, all related to the community. So that's how I refer to it. I think it's listed on the plan originally as that also. So when we get there, they came up with part of the feasibility is a cost estimate. They're fairly confident on the cost estimate. We don't expect it to go above that amount, obviously. That's when the city administration is involved again with the finances and the plans on how to finance this. One thing I want to point out that I don't know if it's been detailed real well, or it will be, the financial, if you go and limit the exact amount to what you're wanting to borrow for the building project, say you wanted to buy a car and you can afford $500 flat, that's all you can afford, and your car is going to cost you $500. Most loans, people are going to look at that and say, well, what's your debt to income ratio, something on a personal level. It's similar with the municipal agencies. They want to see that you can afford this, and they don't want you to be right at top level. I know. So what they're saying is we can't at this point say 0.25 to fire, 0.25 to building. You may need a little more to get the loan, but you may end up only spending 0.25. The other point I wanted to bring up for you is we will obviously discuss this in detail with the plans, the needs that the architect brought up to the police department as far as our building, and some related to the construction of a community center. But specifically for me, we'll come to your community organizations and meet with you. We'll hold town hall type meetings here at the city hall and discuss the plans in detail, exactly what our plans are for a police department, and we'll include obviously the community center and things as such. Does that answer some of your questions on this, or give you a perspective of where the police department's coming from?
Chief, can you describe that building down there, the police department, how bad a shape it's in? I mean, give us detail.
I'd like to give more details at those town halls and when I'm prepared for some of those things, but basically you're looking at a department that lacks a lot of the basic necessities that you would have in a normal modern police facility. The holding room that we have is not by any means standard. We try often to get them out of there as soon as we can, or not bring them, take them straight to jail. That comes into where I talk about efficiency for a new building. The efficiency is we take someone to Tri-County Jail. You're looking at an officer gone for an hour. It's 20 minutes there, probably, and I'm just estimating 20 minutes there, 10 minutes, and 20 back. And that's on a quick turnaround. If they're busy, it may take longer to unload your prisoner. So that's one of the main points. There's limited access to interview rooms and operations where everybody's on one area for their reports and the roll call and different things like that. We've got rooms that are in a normal building would be utilized by 3 or 4 rooms, but we have it jammed into one room. You're looking at right around 6,000 square feet currently, and the proposal would be about 18,000, depending on the structure. So there's a lot of avenues like that we can address in the town hall and explain in a little more detail, but those are some of the highlights, what you have.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I just want to mention one of the issues that I have, and it's not with Chief, of course, it's, I heard that there was $500 appropriated for a study for the Parks and Recs Department, but the job of council is to legislate for dollars to be appropriated. And no, not for you, this is, yeah. And so I'm hearing that the administration is appropriating dollars without bringing them to finance for it. So where was the $500? So we appropriated, what, $12,000 for the study?
12,000.
Okay, and then another $500 was appropriated? Or?
No, there was departmental, each department has money appropriated for them to conduct their business as they see fit throughout the year.
Okay.
They had additional funds available that had already been appropriated for them to use at their discretion, and that's where the 500 come from.
Okay.
We cannot appropriate money.
Right.
So we didn't appropriate any money. Council appropriated the money for the departments to use at their discretion,
right.
And that's what happened with the 500.
And that's why I have my question. Thank you for your clarification. Mm-hmm. Next is, I feel that the way you've described it would be putting the cart before the horse. I know that you'd like to have town hall meetings and get everything discussed, but I don't understand why you would want to rush through $25 million project, which I would argue may be one of the largest projects ever presented in this city, to rush it through and suspend a 3 reading rule and then talk about it later. This legislation, this possibility of this, and I do not doubt that the police department needs a new facility. I have been there. I've done ride-alongs, first, second, and third shift there. And I've done first, second, third shift with the fire department, and I've done things in the rec center, but I do not doubt the police department. They definitely need a new facility. That is hands down, no doubt. And it would be really nice to see a new facility for our Parks and Recs department. One of the issues that I have, though, of course, many of you have voiced your concerns also, is pinning the extra dollars going to the fire department along with those. It's almost like in big government when they tuck things in and call it pork belly. Just throw some extra things in there and they, basically say, hey, if you want this, and I know you really do, then you need to vote yes on this too, or you're not going to get that. I think that this should be presented where the increase should be presented separately from building the Recs and Park and Recs department and building the police department, because we do need those. And I don't doubt that at all. They're nice looking pictures. I'm sure that people can come up with lots of other ideas to add to them or to change them or to make them what we want them to be. I think that by the town hall meetings, the people will get more of an idea of exactly what they're looking at, exactly what's going on, and then still have a chance to put it on a ballot in November instead of rushing it through for the ballot for May. That doesn't. I don't think that that's a good idea, and the community would still get to decide, but you would get to decide with more knowledge, more information, more time to meet, instead of saying yes and then find out later what you bought. So that's kind of how what I feel about that, and I think there should be two separate issues. But Mr. Eads, yeah.
Can I give a statement also?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, with the amount of discussion that's taking place tonight, it seems to me like there's a lot of things that need to be discussed before this would ever go to a ballot. When it comes to this ordinance, I'm not aware of any funding discussions that took place before this was brought to the Finance Committee. When it was presented to the Finance Committee, no alternative funding ideas were discussed by the administration, so it seems that moving forward, the only idea is to raise the income tax from the current 1.5% to 2%. The primary concern at the Finance Committee meeting was that the fire department needs additional funding. According to Safety Service Director Rex Castle, the fire department funding has been a known problem and that Chief Eads advised he could operate for 3 years in the current funding model and is now in the 4th year. I applaud him for being able to continue this on. However, if it was not for the ARP fund, which is COVID relief money, the fire department would be in the red by the end of the year. The perceived need of a new police headquarters and a community center have certainly struck a nerve with the residents of London. However, it seems that these items are being treated as equally important as the fire department. The conceptual assessment to address the police department and the community center was presented to the Finance Committee, and we were asked to bring this to council without the opportunity to study this or do any research on our own. The administration wants to see this approved before the February deadline to place it on the ballot in May. I urge each council member to find out how much money this additional income tax would generate, and if that amount will cover an additional $25 million of debt. If my calculations are correct, this income tax would generate $2.3 million additionally. This came from the $6.9 million that was collected last year, so that's based on 1.5. This being an additional half would be $2.3 million. If the fire department shows an additional need of $800,000, that would leave $1,500,000. I called a commercial banker that I know and had him run the numbers. He advised me that a $25 million loan with a 4.5% interest and a 25-year payback would cost the city $1,650,000 per year for the principal and interest. So if nothing else changes, we would still need to come up with another $150,000 out of the general fund. However, adding this tonight, with tonight's information that they would like to take a quarter of that, or 25%, 0.25, or half of that, and give that to the fire department, that means $1.1 million would then go to the fire department, leaving only $1.2 million to pay a debt of $1.65 million. Again, I urge each councilman to do their own research on this. The need for speed is not as great as the need to make sure this will do what is expected, and if it is what we as a council want to present as something we have passed. If the intent of this council is to suspend the 3 reading rule and to pass this as an emergency legislation during tonight's meeting, then you have taken away the ability of the citizens of London to make any meaningful comments. There were people that came tonight, but this hasn't made the paper and it hasn't been shared across all medias. I feel that we are unnecessarily rushing this through before we've even had a chance to discuss the assessment or the possible ways to fund it. This also does not address what is listed in most emergency clauses, the public peace, health, and safety issues that are associated with the failing storm sewers in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I mean, I think.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Rex, he had his hand up. Yeah, we can hear you.
Just like to interject. Greg, you're probably 100% correct. That's why the city does not go to commercial banks. We go to bondsmen to get our loans, which is a substantially lower interest rate, of which I have already done. And your loan payments are off by about $300,000 a year from what we were told.
What interest rates are you looking at?
1.7.
Okay, and see, like, information like that, that's definitely things that we should know before, you know, a suspension of 3 reading rules done for $25 million. Definitely, yeah.
I wrote an email.
Oh, okay, he was, okay, go ahead.
That's why I wrote an email today, once again, to say, if you guys ever have any questions, to please contact us. I know Greg's been talking to people around the building, but hasn't approached us yet. If you guys have any questions about this, we're not hiding anything from you, but you need to ask what you guys want from us, and we'll give it to you.
Well, and I think when it comes to that, because you often say, you know, if we have any questions to come to you, and I think right now in council, we are coming to you, because a lot of these questions that we're asking, I would like to have asked in a public forum so that others can hear those questions, because they may have some of those same questions and need some of those same answers that we're looking for. And I don't feel that it would be fair to ask those questions just behind closed doors, because those are questions that would affect the city. It could help to affect if someone votes and fills in the box or not. So I think that these questions that we do have, I think this is an appropriate place to bring those questions and ask in an open public forum. Yes, sir.
I apologize. Mr. East said, is it a 25-year loan or is it a 30-year loan?
When I spoke to the commercial banker, we ran through this as a 25-year loan, not a 30.
That could affect the numbers also.
It could. It could.
These are questions. I got a million questions. So, I mean,
What was the number of years you looked at, Rex?
Bondsman recommended a 30-year loan. If the loan amount would have been a little bit larger, like schools, you could have applied for a 37.5-year loan. But 30-year loan was what was looked at to keep the payments down and still get a reasonable rate.
So it's a possibility if you look at 25 years, your numbers may be where his are.
Not with the interest rate.
No. So if you're looking at a 30-year loan at the interest rate you're talking about, what's that come out to annually as far as the cost? Yeah, the amount that would be owed for the year on that type of loan.
It's like 1.2 million.
Which at that point, if the fire department takes what they do, it's a break even, correct?
Yes. I mean, that would cover both the debt service and the fire department. And that would say, then you're basically saying that we would have no growth in the city for the next 25, 30 years. I'm anticipating growth, so I'm anticipating more tax revenues coming in. So there would be more money going to the fire department. The debt service is not going to increase, it's going to stay the same. So the fire department will progressively get more revenues as we get more, citizens in the city, which we got homes being built, so I anticipate more coming in.
Actually, $300,000.
Okay.
Sorry?
Actually,
Just
yes.
$300,000 for 3 years.
300,000.
Yeah, 1.2
fire department's gonna get approximately half, and then the other half will go for debt service.
It's not as strict.
But that was based on my 800,000, but tonight we discussed the fact that if they do give a quarter of that, half of the increase of 2.3 million, that would actually be $1,150,000, right? That would go to the fire department if it were broke down that way.
Okay, Mr. Dillon?
Yes, I just wondered, does the 25 million, are we including maintenance, are we including repairs? Because I mean, just building homes, you know, something can break down immediately, are we including salaries? Are we including the heating costs, the air conditioning costs? Or is this just for the building? Because we're already starting out our budget with $120,000 shortfall. The fire department has a shortfall. We have no waste treatment center or system. The water treatment center has issues. I mean, do we include, is that included in the 25 million, all those other expenses?
No,
Or is that just for the building?
That's just for the building. In the legislation for the tax, though, those monies could be used for that as they arise in future years, I hope.
And be taken away from others?
No,
We feel the population is going to continue to grow. So as, can I
Yeah.
speak? The population will continue to grow, which will bring in more people that will be paying the income tax. So that money will continue to grow every year, is the way we're looking at it. And then when, I'm confused when you keep saying, are you talking about how we run a deficit budget?
Yes.
Well, we've ran a deficit budget. I've been on council forever. We set up a deficit budget, but we never deficit spend
Okay.
for the city of London and our general fund.
But we still have crumbling infrastructure on so many levels.
Well, I know, you're absolutely right. And like you said, you were talking about things that were 40, 45 years ago. You're absolutely right. And I truly feel that in the past 6 years, we've fixed more storm sewer that was done in the 16 years before that.
I agree with you there, but we are not even making a dent in what we're taking from citizens now.
Yeah.
Now you want to take in more money for a facility that we're not going to be able to maintain because you're going to have costs for staff, you're
Yeah.
going to have heating, cooling.
Yeah, that's not true.
Well,
We just
I
explained
think
that.
Mrs. Dillon, right?
Yes.
Right. I think I think I'm understanding what you're asking in there. So with Parks and Rec, they have a yearly budget. That would be set up for repairs, for staff, and all of those things. So yeah, the loan would not,
But you're creating a larger facility that's going to have more staff and more heating and more cooling and these different repairs.
sure, right,
I live in a 1913 house. I don't get to just tear it down and start over.
Right.
I have to maintain it and continue to fix things up, and I
Yeah.
don't get that option.
yeah.
All right, Mr. Norman, you have the floor.
I was just gonna ask, are we considering that amending this so that the fire department only gets up to that $100,000? Is that a consideration? Because you guys are gonna change it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I'm definitely okay with that, amending it to up to the .25.
So, because, and here's why, and I keep hearing, the fire department has made it those 3 years, but did they really? Because I know we got rid of the credit, the tax credit, and that money went to help shore up the fire department. So they didn't really make it on their own, if you look at it that way. And then now we're using the COVID money to shore them up again. So we didn't really make it that 3 years. And when you guys keep saying that, it's kind of frustrating because if you're not going to be upfront with me about that, then I kind of feel you're starting to put me over here to go.
Mr. Castle.
Go ahead. I'm probably wrong.
2021, from 2019 to 2021 is 3 years. The fire department and EMS made it the 3 years that they promised, no problems. We're looking at year 4, not 1 through 3. Year 4, where we're helping to shore them up, and then we're asking for tax relief in year 5 and beyond.
It's
So,
my understanding that we stopped
So it was,
20 that was collected from 2020, then went to the fire.
Yeah, we got approximately 75% of that, which is like 200 and some $1,000.
Okay, but it was still used to shore them up.
Okay, take the 200 and some thousand, they're still plus in their fund.
They still would have been plus in the fund at the beginning of this year,
Yeah,
even
so-
if you took that off. So we did what we said we could do, is make it 3 years.
I'm just,
Yeah, no, we're just explaining.
it just sounds, for the perception, and I've had a lot of people on my page go, well, wait a minute, we bail them out here, and that's what there's, whether it's right or wrong, the perception out there is that we have been bailing out the fire department. Now, I mean, I think maybe you should put something up to maybe explain the process of what's going on with the fire department so people can read it, because I'm not alone in this. There's a lot of people who feel that we've been kind of nursing the fire department along from 2021, or from 2020 to now.
Well, I think that is true. I mean, I've heard people talk about propping up, and I'm
yeah,
and
you
looking.
have the floor.
What?
You have the floor.
I don't have to raise my hand, right?
Well,
To speak?
I at least acknowledge you.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
For the first time that I've ever been on council.
That's how it works. Thank you.
So, with that, when we were looking at the fire department and the EMS, with the 3 years, to my recollection, nobody ever stated that there was never going to be another levy. I think it would be pretty unfair to ask the fire department to never operate with a levy. And then as far as combining them, why not do 3 levies? Why not do one for the community center? Why not do one for the fire department? Why not, we can continue to go on and make a bunch of levies. I think one levy is a good way to do it. As someone that, I do not use the community center building. When Tammy had asked some counselors to go over there and help out with the basketball team, President Comer and I were there, and I was amazed at how many people were in the building. It was absolutely incredible, all the kids that were there. I began looking at the building, in all honesty, embarrassed. It was in very, very bad shape. And so I began to ask Tammy, how do we fix this building? To even see if, I'm also a pastor of Revive Baptist Church. Is there a way, can we as a church begin to fix this? And I quickly found out that even with all of our efforts, it just would not make a difference, much of a difference. I asked Tammy, which I think Tammy did a phenomenal job, especially during COVID and all those things, all the events, that they worked so hard to follow rules, to find ways to get kids active, I thought was absolutely incredible. And how she's run those departments, how they've grown with the kids, and all the kids the number of the kids increasing as they've participated. But I also asked Tammy the question, why don't we rent this building out? Why don't we try to find more of an income? And so she began to kind of explain to me, when you look at the age of the building, if damage occurs, which I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that ever did this, but hang on a basketball rim, when you're a kid, and pull up on the net and hang on it and things like that. She said if one of those got ripped off the wall because of the age and things like that, she said it would be like next to impossible for us to put it back up. So essentially, we would lose half a gym, which would be pretty detrimental to those programs. I think that our fire and EMS have done a phenomenal job. I've spoke to Madison emergency leaders there. The one quote I received from one gentleman was unequivocally, they have done a phenomenal job. Our police department, they do great things. I think when you look at the very fact that we went 3 years without a levy, that's exactly what was stated by the administration and council. I remember that time. It was miserable. Pat talked to me about being a third ward council, and I thought it was going to be a pretty easy job, and it definitely was not. going through that. But to go back to that, everyone kept saying that the city would not even last a year. That was the big rumor that went around. And so I want to ask people, please don't buy into these rumors. Get the information and find these things out. When the administration, Chief Eads said 3 years. They've done that. I think it's absolutely phenomenal how the departments have been ran and all the feedback that I've seen. Going back to our police department, we see these improvements. We see how bad they're needed. We see the advantages of having kids that are busy. I recently started mentoring young teenagers, and I'm coming to a close here, trying not to take too long, and seeing the advantages of having activities that keeps kids busy and the importance of what it is and what it does for our community, I think is a big advantage. I'll address the flooding. I deal with it. I live on Olive Street. It gets on my nerves and drives me crazy every time I have to deal with it. I had to install a backflow preventer, my sewer system. I did not like doing that. I did not like paying for it. And I definitely understand that, and I want to see those things fixed. Just, the mention of the water tower or the new water plant, we have worked absolutely as hard as we can. It's been very difficult. We've even went to the point where we have literally called the federal EPA every single day until they gave us answers, just because of the needs being so great. And I do thank the BPU, the administration, everybody that's worked on that. And I'll stop there.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I think if you leave this levy the way it is, it's going to be very hard still to keep it. I'm all for the police department, fire department, the community center. You have a lot of low-income people in London, as shown by 4 kids. When word gets out about this, and a lot of people don't know, I told the daughter, she had no idea this was happening. You need this, the community center on there with it. I don't think this is her chance. That's just.
All right, thank you. All right, any further discussion on 11022?
Well, I would like to make the motion for, this is the part we would have to make the motion for the up to 25%, correct? Or what would that be, 0.5%, 0.25. I would like to make a motion to amend it. Let's see, not to exceed, the fire department not to exceed 0.25%.
Okay. And like she said, I think the police department needs a new facility. I think Parks and Rec needs a new facility. My issue is pinning the fire departments with the community center and the police department. I think that those should be separated so that they can be voted on their own merit. The EMS fire is doing a great job, so they should have no problem getting that approved. And the police department is definitely, I'm telling you what, and the chief, he does a great job out there. Absolutely wonderful job. The police department definitely needs a new facility, and our Parks and Recs department can take an upgrade, most definitely. So my issue would be just to by putting the fire department along with those two, and they, seem to be apples to oranges. They're not the same thing. You're building a facility and you're funding something and kind of, putting them together.
Point of order, can we go back to, I made a motion about an amendment. Can we see if there's a second?
Second.
And I was getting to that point, so that would have been my job to do that point of order before we complete that. So now we have your motion on the table, and now we have second on the table, and then we'll do a vote on that.
Can we have roll call?
In just a moment, I'll call roll call. Okay, we have one more person. All right, so we have a first and a second. Clerk, please take the roll call for amendment.
Robinson?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Hitt?
Yes.
Dahl?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Eads?
Nope.
Peters?
Yes.
So
Oh,
11022 has been amended. Do we have any further discussion?
yeah.
Yes.
With us getting this on January 10th, unfortunately, I mean, that's a lot of pressure, like passing this tonight. I'm one of the first ones to say, yes, we need a community center, we need a police department. Heck, we even need a new fire department building. But to rush this on us tonight, I know we got to meet a deadline for the May.
I want to finish hearing.
What benefits or what's pros and cons May to November?
And I said the same thing because I talked to Jennifer Hitt, and she said we could just wait and put it on the ballot in November. It would still be voted on this year, but you would have more time to get more information out to the community before they say, yeah, we'll vote on it and find out about it later. Yes, Mr.
So we will have time to get information out to the community. We're not even 90 days out from the election, so we'll have over 3 months to get information out. One reason to take it in May would be if it did fail, then we can regroup and see what we want to do in November. Because either way, we've got to figure something out for the fire department and EMS. So taking it in May and letting the people vote on it, I mean, ultimately, that's what you guys are doing. You're not saying you're for the levy or whatever. You're saying, I'm here to represent the people, and I'm going to put the power in the people's hands to go to the ballot and cast their vote on whether to have this or not. If we wait until November and say we do them separate or together or whatever, and then we fail there, then we're in real big trouble with fire department and EMS going into 2023. That's why we felt if we take it in May, if it does not pass, then we can regroup and figure out what we're going to do for November. And that's the main reason. And we spoke about this at finance, is that we did not want to bring this to a city council and then it get changed over. And then this city council not have their voice heard on what the past city council did if you guys decide to run the levy. So, does that make sense, Josh?
Yeah.
Chief?
I just want to address a couple things. One was the splitting the items. From my experience working with different levies and architects and things in the past, it's highly recommended that it not be split into individuals because usually no one wins in that situation. So that was just passing on my experience to you and recommendations from those. And the second thing was, it wasn't the intent to try and sneak us through with just one reading originally. There was a misunderstanding of the rule change with the Board of Elections. And it's 60 days for a position to run a candidate, but it's 90 days for an issue. It was understood in the original discussions with the administration that it was 60 days to vote. And then we found out it was 90, so that's why it's given one reading.
Right, and that's what Jennifer and we discussed that with 90 days, and it would still be eligible for the ballot in November as well. Sir?
There being two proposals on this and two elections, there's concern on the police department and the community center as well as fire. Fire seems to be one of the main concerns by the mayor. Why isn't that put on the May ballot and the community service put, or community center and police department postponed until November?
Good question, sir. And like I said, that was my, to separate those two.
I mean, it was spoke about earlier. We felt the best way to pass this levy was to put them all together and just kind of, I don't want to say rip the Band-Aid off, but say, this is what we're going to need. We need $152 a year from the average citizen to do all of these things. And that's what I was saying was if the voters say no, then we come back or we regroup for November to make sure that we figure out what we want to do to get the fire and EMS done.
So I'm the master plan. I'm used to levy not passing. So with that, I'm for both, 110%. I understand the concern on fire, and I also understand we definitely need a community center. We also need a new police station. But with that, I also know, I dubbed them the Londonites, they're very suspicious on things. A lot of people are. And with that, we can't bring in restaurants because nothing stays. This community lives on pizza and Mexican. It's Mexican food, you know what I mean? Like that's what it is. So when you bring something in and it's very bold and upfront, people in London tend to shy away from it. So why wouldn't we break it up into two different issues and give the time and months, especially with the community center? That's a big thing that has people riled up is that community center. So give them the time to look at it, see what it is, and actually form a plan of what they're taking in, rather than giving them 3 months to decide, it getting turned down, because if it gets turned down in May, what happens if it gets turned down in November? And that's on both things, fire and that, if you keep it as one, rather than if fire gets turned down in May, you can then turn it into one thing in November. That's my thought.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Dill?
Is there any discussion among council or the city about, I know February 2nd, there's the meeting for storm sewers. Is there any discussion about putting something before the public or asking for more on our water bills to, at some point, you guys have got to do something about it. It has to be dealt with. It's getting worse every day. You're Band-Aiding it all the time. And if we didn't put it up in May and you put it up in November, couldn't you the city come before city council and ask for an emergency amendment to help the fire department so you could get it through to next May? Couldn't that be done as well, if that's what it came down to?
Well, I think right now, I think we have a big plate to eat right now. This is absolutely amazing here. Like I said, I would have to research it, but I would doubt this is the largest amount of money the city's spent, at one time. But to allow such short notice and short time to be able to make a decision on that, I just think that's not fair, and to pack them together so you can kind of, hold them together. So we've amended this now, and I'm sure there'll be, we'll see what's happening here. So we've amended this to a point, no more than 0.25% going to fire. So now what are our wishes on 11022?
I'm going to make the motion. We go ahead and suspend it, 3 reading rule, send it to the voters and let them make the choice.
Okay, we have a first.
I'll second.
All right, and we have a second to suspend the 3 reading rule. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Eads,
No.
Peters,
No.
Robinson.
Yes.
All right, now the voters will still have a chance to vote on this, but I think that this should happen after town halls and information. That's just how I work. I like to know what I'm going to before. A motion to adopt?
Make the motion to adopt it
As amended.
You can't.
as amended.
You can't.
Yep.
You can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't.
Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, okay.
Had to have a super majority.
That's right, got it. Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's going to go to Board of Elections. All right, on to Resolution 11122.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
As a point of order, because again, I'm not sure I understand this. If the motion to suspend the rules is by a 3/4 number, correct? I think that it has to be passed by a 3/4, which is 0.75 in my math, right? How does a 5-2 vote carry that? I don't understand. Do we use the whole number, or because that should be 5.25, and we don't have a 2.25 of a member up here, so I don't know how that works. I just don't know.
Yeah, I think in general, it's the simple majority, so you can't, cut the person.
So a simple majority is 4 out of 7, right?
Right.
And then you have a 2/3 vote on some things, and you have a 3/4 vote on some things. So shouldn't there be a difference between a simple majority of 4 and then a 2/3 vote and a 3/4 vote? I mean, shouldn't there be a whole person difference in that? Shouldn't it? I don't know. I just don't understand how this works.
Right. Well, the majority of people have to vote in the affirmative in order for this to pass. And of course, you cannot have a partial person. So, and I think originally what the rules were referring to were the amount of city council members that have been voted and are seated. Because I know for a while we changed something because we didn't have all of our council people. I think we're short 1 or 2 or something like that a couple years ago.
So if we
So we have all of our members. I'd have to bring this up. Let's see here if I can get this.
Are you talking about for a suspension?
3/4.
Greg?
Yes, suspension, affirmative 3/4 vote of the seated council members to suspend the
Has to be
rules.
6 out of the 7, I believe.
We require 5.
Is that, do you think that's 6
It's
out
a
of 7?
six.
I know this isn't my meeting, but I can explain this if you'd
Okay.
like.
Because I do not have this up in front of me.
Would you like me to explain
Yeah,
it?
you can go ahead, because I
To
don't have it in front
suspend
of
the
me.
3 reading rule, you have to have a super majority, which would be 6 out of the 7 voting members. So you did not have the super majority as the vote was 5-2. So at that point, that means that this legislation is left on. You cannot vote on this tonight. And now it's not going to matter anyway because we're not going to be able to make it to the May ballot. So a super majority is 6-1.
All right, thank you for that clarification, because I don't have that anywhere near in front of me.
Thank you.
Should we just vote to remove it?
No, just leave it on.
Well, so you're going to have to vote it down eventually, but you can't vote on it tonight
Oh,
because
right.
you can't suspend it. It has to go to the 3 readings.
Okay.
Unless we're to have additional meetings.
Correct. If you want to call a special meeting, you could do that also. Well, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry,
definitely
Henry.
not in favor of special meetings just to push things through, not at all. So now we at least we'll have another chance to have a couple more hearings on it.
Well, I'd ask the audience, would you like special meetings to see about it being put on the May ballot?
Special meetings are called by the president.
I'm asking their opinion to see if you'd like, I'm asking to see if you would like your people's
If you would like
opinion.
special meetings to push it through faster. Yeah, thank you. All right, on to Resolution 11122, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
All right, and a second?
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 11122, a resolution to place the issue of increasing the municipal income tax by 0.5% per annum for a continuing period of time as provided in ordinance number 11022 on the ballot at the election to be held on May 3rd, 2022, and directing the Board of Elections of Madison County, Ohio to conduct such election and declaring an emergency.
This is basically just the form for the income tax, what you would see at the polling place for the income tax or against the income tax, and you would check mark it. That's basically what this is. Since we've basically turned it down, I don't see any sense to even go with this or do anything with it, so I just say we remove it.
You can
Leave it
always
on.
amend it
Leave it
to
on.
You can amend it for the November if we wanted to.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, we can
Yeah,
amend it for
leave
November.
it on. We could amend it now for November, or just leave it on and amend it later.
Let's just leave it on.
Okay. And that concludes our legislation for this evening. On to roundtable.
Council President, before we get into roundtable, with the rules of the proceedings of council, just with the time frame that we were given, we were not shown the differences that were made. I would like to make a motion that council rules would be reopened and reevaluated.
Council rules are not a point of motion. That's the privilege of the council president. They're not voted on. That is the privilege of the council president at the beginning, and
Okay.
it's not voted on.
Point of order. I've made a motion. Is there a second?
And I have to recognize the motion. There is no motion because you don't vote on council rules. You
We
do not vote.
voted on council rules last meeting.
No, you do not vote on council rules. You did not vote. I stated what they were, and that was it. There is no voting
Okay.
on council rules.
Well, I want it to be clear. I've made the motion. Council President has denied the motion.
Right, because there is no motion that you can make for that, because you do not vote on council rules.
Okay.
Thank you.
I
All right,
thought
on to
your-
roundtable, Mr. Smith.
What did you say, John?
I thought years before we had votes.
Years before you have, but it's not even in the rules that you vote on it. It's not even in the rules that it's a voice vote. It's in the rules that the president makes the rules at the beginning of council session, and that's what they are, as well as choosing the chairs for the committees, and that's not even a voice vote. That is at the pleasure of the council president to choose. And I'm not understanding why this is such a big issue. It's never been an issue in the past. I
And
just
years
don't
before, I know
understand
you
what's happening.
appointed President Pro Temp, but years before, the members of council used to do that too.
But no. Yeah, I did appoint President Pro Tem, and then as well as the council clerk too. But that is not a vote. You don't vote on that. People have voted in the past, but it's even in the council rules, there is no vote on that. That is something that is done at the privilege of the council president.
Just another thing while we're talking rules, we don't make motions, we move motions if we go by Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm asking for right now. I'm asking that we follow council rules. I've made a motion, and I'm asking to see if there's a second.
And there is no vote on council.
I'm asking you to follow your rules. I've made a motion, and I'm asking if there's a second. If there's not a
motion-
second, there's no reason for
Yeah,
us to
but your
discuss.
motion is, like, you're talking about council rules, which you don't vote on. So
Okay.
I'm not sure, and like I said, I've never seen this in the past, so I'm
I don't want to
wondering
argue
why-
with you. I just want
why
to know
this
if
is,
there's
no,
a
it's not
second.
an
And then
argument.
if there's
It's
not a
why
second,
is
let's
this
just
coming
move
up
on.
now, and it has not come up in the past.
Well, it is coming up because the rules, you did change a lot in the rules.
No, I didn't change a lot.
You did. You
Matter of fact, I
did.
clarified a lot of the rules.
Can you let me explain?
Yeah.
I asked you right before the meeting to point out the rules. You showed me verbiage and things like that were changed.
And that was it.
No, you changed that special meetings cannot be called by 3 members of council, only by council president.
No, I changed that, no. Let's see here. Well, I don't know if I have it or not. But I don't know if I have it or not.
May I speak, please?
Just a moment. Let me see if I have this or not. No, I don't have it. And this is something then that we can discuss at another time, because I don't have the exact changes that I've made. So we're on to roundtable. Mr. Smith, are you finished?
Well, I'm finished as far as my motion goes.
Okay, thank you. Roundtable, Mr. Smith.
Just like to thank everyone for coming tonight. Did want to encourage everyone to go to the Madison County Fairgrounds calendar. There are a lot of great events that are coming up. Oftentimes I hear people say, I didn't know that was going on at the fairgrounds. One great event that I'll let people know about is the Sportsman's Banquet presented by Revive Baptist Church, February 12th. It's from 5 to 8 p.m. It's free to get in. It's free to eat. It's free to win prizes. We don't even take donations. It is 100% free. It's a great event for the entire family. There's a cool guy who's going to be there, the Turtle Man from Animal Planet's called the Wild Man. He'll be doing a meet and greet, signing autographs, and that, of course, will be free. There are a lot of other great events that I've just recently learned getting involved with the fairgrounds that take place. So just encourage you to look at that. And that's all I have for Roundtable.
All right, Mr. Stahl.
I also thank everyone for coming out. It's nice to hear different opinions, and good, bad, or whatever. And it's been very interesting. I don't have anything much else to say.
All right, Mr. Hicks.
Yeah, thank everyone for coming out and offering your opinions on the legislation. The next safety meeting is February 8th at 5 o'clock in the meeting room next door or in here one.
All right, Mr. Hayes.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, whether you're for it, against it, whatever. That's what this is all about. That's why we live in a free country. That's why a lot of veterans have sacrificed and died, so you could sit there tonight and voice your opinion. And I think it's great that you did. I want to thank all the city workers for jobs well done, especially, and I'm not picking anybody in particular, but street department did a great job on the streets this past few days. Unbelievable job, great job. And I'd like to just ask God's blessing upon the city of London. And I got one more thing for you, Andrea. Hooday!
All right, on to Mr. Robinson.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming out and voicing their opinion. I know this is a big issue. As we've stated, we want to grow as a community. One of the big things about developers coming in and trying to build houses is the amenities that we offer. So do understand that we are trying to kind of bring a face to our town and clean up some of the eyesores. I know our buildings are depreciating and they need fixing. So public services, February 2nd at 1 p.m. And everyone take care, please.
All right, Mr. Peters.
Yeah, I'm looking at your rules.
Are you looking at the amended rule or the new one?
The ones you sent me.
The first one I sent you was
Letter S.
The first one I sent you was before editing.
Letter S, these rules or any part herein may be temporarily suspended in any meeting of the council by a 3/4 affirmative vote of all members.
And
would require 6 affirmative votes.
Correct. And is this the
That's
one?
one you.
Is this the one I sent you or the one Amy sent you? Because the one Amy sent the second time was the amended one.
I only sent it once.
You only sent them once? Okay, so the one that Amy sent was the amended. Because even as far as on the rules, I did not change any rules of,
Well, I'm just
of
saying,
voting. I didn't change any voting.
I think
I definitely checked before I brought the motion.
Yeah, I didn't.
And I'm within council right as a council member to make a motion for these, specifically investigated these rules for the motion that I made to see if a councilor wanted to second it. And then by your own rules, there's a roll call.
unless I'm reading it wrong.
All right, I'm going to have to take a look at all of this to see if this is the amended version. Let me take a look at it. Because I know we had 3 versions out there.
If it would help, I could resend what you sent me. Everyone
It would have to be what you amended.
Right. It's the only one I sent, the only one in my sent mailbox. I can send it to everybody right now if that would help.
Councilmember Shell.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I mean, you're already going to make a change to the rules tonight, right? at your suggestion, you're changing the rules.
Yeah, I'm changing the rules so that everyone can speak at least 2 minutes.
Right. That's going to have to be amended regardless. So maybe you and Amy get on the same page, make sure we have the same copies.
Yeah, we'll do
And
that.
that you have your amendment in there, and then next meeting, we'll all have the same set of hard copy rules. I
Exactly,
hope.
because we ran into this issue last time because there were two email with two separate copies of legislation. It was one was before amending and one was after
I
amending.
only sent one.
Right, but I sent out one before it was amended. I sent it
Would
out to
that rule have
everyone,
been
too.
changed in any of your amendments?
No, it was not.
It would have been changed.
No, I don't think. that
No,
was
because
part of any of the
even,
amendments.
because even in Amy's rules, when she sent it out, she had not changed it. And
Yeah,
it
but
still needed
did
change.
you make any changes to
That's
that
not
rule?
true. What I sent out was the right one. It's the one that was agreed upon, the right version. Nothing was changed after I sent it out.
Okay, well, no, yours did not include even saying that the president had the right to limit time on
It did.
a topic. No, it did not, because Anthony didn't have it, but I showed him that I had it in my.
No, I had it. I read it.
And I didn't have it. Or you
I
didn't
had
have
the
it
exact
first.
same that you had. We had a disagreement on the interpretation.
I had the one that you proofread right before I sent it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then what we'll do is go back over these rules, and then I'll choose which rules I want to have, because that's what they'll be. We'll make sure that you have all
like
the
that
correct.
statement.
We'll make sure that she has all the correct adjustments of the rules that
I
I have
like that
chosen for
statement.
council. Like I said,
I made a
like,
motion.
no, like I said before, this has happened at every single beginning of every single council where the council president is able to choose their own rules. It's happened at every single time, so I just want to review those as well, and we can review them together and make sure that she's made the correct adjustments, make sure that everyone has a hard copy of, because I still have my handwritten notes, and I'll make sure that that's what her notes say. I'll make sure everyone has one, so then we can discuss them so we know that we're all talking about the same thing.
So do you deny my motion?
Yes.
So, if every other council member up there has the old rules per se, if no one else got it, shouldn't the motion still pass because no one else knew about it?
No, because there is another version of the rules out there that have been changed too, so.
Right, well, everyone else, like I'm saying, has it, and everyone else read through it and what was sent out, shouldn't it still be able to be seconded and voted on? That's what I'm asking, because if no one else got it, then no one else knows the rules.
Well, but there is no vote on the rules. The rules are chosen by council president, and there is no vote to accept them or not accept them.
According to your rules, the motion I made is valid.
But
If everyone else has the same rules, if everyone else is seeing the exact same thing,
Just second it so we can go to roll call.
take a second and go to a vote of that.
Hey, we can go home.
Yeah, he said it.
yeah.
So it's not just, and then valid ain't the same.
All right, valid, remember to bring it up and ask for a second on that vote. It's in the rules of the city council position.
Yeah, it says point of order is not debatable in the rules.
Except for those 5 different bullet points. And well, let's see.
What it says under R, it says the following motions are not debatable. To adjourn, to lay on the
5.
table, to take from the table, and point of order.
Right. Oop, that's you.
Well, then I move we adjourn. There's no second,
We're
so,
done.
okay.
We're not done with the roundtable.
So.
He has to exit roundtable before we can adjourn.
Point of order, technically, we need to know if council president is going to deny my motion. Then after we know yes or no, then we technically should have went to roundtable.
I think we back up. I think Amy went to get Robert's Rules of Order. And I think that if the president has to recognize you first for your motion to even
Right, the
be
president
allowed.
hasn't, and I did not recognize his motion.
I mean, I think you have to be recognized first in the Robert's Rules of Order.
That's why I said I do not recognize your motion.
The number, or S, says that we can suspend the rules, so we'd have to suspend the rules and
Which
then
would be made
take
by
a vote.
motion without the recognizing of council president.
Maybe
And,
temporarily.
and my question would be, what would be the purpose of bringing the rules
I don't-
back? What's,
I don't have to state a purpose. I've made a motion to bring the rules back.
Because I think that this is really
I think
interesting now.
things were changed.
Because I don't remember any council president going through this. I remember council presidents picking their rules, and that's what it was.
Well, no council president ever handed me all their rule changes a couple hours before a meeting and then did not show me the changes that were made, just showed me where
I
verbal
showed you that.
things were changed, like in letter F, video recording
Because
was
those are
added,
the only things that
handwritten
changed.
notes.
Even the rule that you're stating here, I didn't change that. I did not touch that rule at all. I did not change that.
So number one,
little-
letter
one
D,
bit.
you did not change
I
it.
did not change that one
So
bit.
3 council members can call a special meeting.
Yeah. The only thing I changed was that the law director
That's not-
is the law director, and there's 2 other people they said that should be able to bring legislation. I'm like, no, that should not be brought by, I think it was the law director and a couple other people, and it should not be brought by them because all legislation should be brought by council people because that's what we do, legislate. But I did not change that rule. Not to my knowledge. And like I said, I have my handwritten notes, so I can bring those, and we'll make sure everyone gets a hard copy of all of the changes.
Even looking at your handwritten notes, you have it crossed out that any 3 council members.
I do not remember without looking at my handwritten notes. Because I made, I think, 7 different changes in there. So once I have my handwritten notes, that may be one, but I can't say definitively. So, but I do have my handwritten notes, so I'll check those out. All right, so let's.
I made a motion. It's up for you to deny it, or you can deny it. and-
Okay, I deny it now, so we
There you
can
go. Right.
finish
roundtable.
roundtable.
Now we're good.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Peters, you're up.
Yeah, besides that, yeah, the whole levy thing, I think we need to do it. I mean, maybe we can squeeze 2 special meetings in before that. We could possibly do that. If not, I mean, maybe we'll amend it to, say, November. But I definitely think the city needs a new rec center and a police department.
Without question, they do.
Community center.
Yeah, without question, they do.
So, other than that, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. Huh?
I'd also like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I think it's important that you have a chance to discuss all of these things. I think it was important that we would have had a chance to look at this a little further. I understand that there was confusion on the time, but that doesn't change the fact that we were handed a notebook and asked to take it to council at the next meeting without any opportunity to look at it and study it. But I think Pride in London, I think it kind of starts at home. So honestly, I think everybody here, I mean, look around, clean it up. You know, there's parts of this town, there's people that make comments that this town looks trashy, and that's a shame that they do that. And I hope that they don't really think that. I think there's people that maybe just drive through and see certain parts, and, you know, there's always going to be parts that need to be fixed. But hopefully that takes care of itself down the road too. But again, thanks everybody for coming out, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Also, too, I'd just like to comment again that I do agree, we do need a new police department. We do need a new fire department, or not fire department, but Parks and Recs department. I do agree on those things. It's just how they're being presented that I just don't 100% agree on. And then as far as the council rules, I will review those and make sure everyone has a hard copy, because we definitely want to make sure that we're going by the rules. We don't want to go outside of the rules. That happens too many times. So if there are things that need change, I would be the first to say, I know I'm not perfect. So if there's someone else that's perfect, that's good for you. But if there's anything that does need change, I'd be the first to say I'm willing to go ahead and take a look at changing those. So a motion to adjourn. Go ahead.
I would love to make a motion to have a special meeting on Wednesday, January 26th, and Tuesday, February 1st, to address this legislation with the levy.
I would second that.
Can you say those dates again, please?
Wednesday, January 26th, and Tuesday, February 1st.
6:30?
Yes.
I would second that motion.
Third, you'd have to third it.
Yeah, third it.
Who seconded that?
Anthony,
I second it.
Oh, you did, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're right. Then we need a third. Yeah.
So we have a first and a second for the two special meetings.
Do you have to have a third?
What's that?
Yeah, you have to have a third per your rules, yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah. Has to
Clerk,
be
please
three,
take the
has
roll
to be
call.
3 counselors.
Three meetings? Yeah.
No, 3 counselors.
I third.
Per the rules, 3 counselors have to say they
Brian,
would
I
like to have a
third.
You
session.
just,
I'll second.
and,
Third it then.
and those are, okay, I could say they're my rules, but they're not rules that I.
Council rules, correct.
Clerk, could you please take the roll call?
Smith,
Yes.
Eads,
No?
Peters,
yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Pitt,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
So you have those two special meetings, and I would invite everyone to do your best to attend those meetings. If you can, at least get the word out that those meetings are going to take place, because these decisions should not be made without you, and they should not be rushed at the dollar sign of $25 million. A motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
But we did. It's just going to be in that order. So,
How we can have
No, they'll be
motion
full on.
or roundtable.
Special meeting,
Is it?
full regular meeting.
And I don't think,
You can't call a meeting.
I don't think I've changed
You
that.
can't call a meeting and only
I'll
discuss
take a look
one
at it.
thing. It
I
has to
think
be
we
a
called it
full
special
meeting.
meeting. It
correct?
had to be over what you wanted.
I don't know.